I was 17 that year, deep in the throes of sophomore year at Northwood High, which meant I was also deep in the throes of my goth phase. I owned it, really, truly. Combat boots, band t-shirts, perpetually dark circles under my eyes that weren't always from lack of sleep, and an attitude that screamed, I couldn't care less what you think of me. Honestly, looking back, I can see why I was a bit of a target. I practically painted a bullseye on my back for the uninspired, conformity-obsessed masses, and Northwood High, nestled in the heart of Springfield, Illinois, had plenty of those. Springfield itself was a pretty standard Midwestern city, full of sprawling subdivisions, a few too many chain restaurants, and that particular brand of high school social politics that felt as old as time. There were the jocks and cheerleaders, the popular crowd, the drama kids, the nerds, and then there were us, the weirdos. My sanctuary was the back corner of the library during lunch, or sometimes the art room, surrounded by my small, fiercely loyal group of friends who were just as into obscure music and vintage clothes as I was. We were our own island, and honestly, I liked it that way. We saw through the superficiality of the popular kids, the endless pursuit of fleeting trends and social validation. We were different, and we took pride in it, perhaps to a cringy degree, as most teenagers do. My anti-conformist stance extended to everything, especially the reigning monarchs of the school, the football players. They represented everything I actively disdained: popularity for popularity's sake, a pack mentality, and a general air of entitlement. So, when my old flip phone vibrated in my skinny jeans pocket one Tuesday afternoon, the screen flashing with an unknown number, I was immediately suspicious. It was after school, I was on my way to the bus stop, lost in the heavy guitar riffs thrumming through my earbuds. I hesitated, then flipped it open. The first text simply read, "Guess who?" An instant wave of annoyance washed over me. Who even did that anymore? It felt like something out of a bad romantic comedy, and definitely not the kind of attention I wanted. My initial thought was one of my friends playing a prank, but the number wasn't familiar. I texted back, "I don't play guessing games." Maybe it would just go away. A few seconds later, another message popped up. "Come on, it's easy, I'm cute, you've seen me around." My stomach twisted. This wasn't a friend. This was someone trying to be flirty, and it was setting off every internal alarm bell I possessed. The ick factor was immediate and overwhelming. How did they even get my number? It was like a violation, an uninvited intrusion into my carefully constructed bubble of indifference. I considered just blocking the number, but a stubborn part of me wanted to know who this persistent, anonymous person was. Plus, I wasn't really a fan of being passive. After a few more exchanges, all of them initiated by him with increasingly cheesy pickup lines and me responding with curt, unenthusiastic replies, he finally gave in. "It's Mark Miller," the text read. My eyes widened. Mark Miller, the Mark Miller. Northwood High's star quarterback, known affectionately, or perhaps ironically, as the Marauder by the school's sports announcer. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a perpetually cocky grin and a veritable fan club of admirers, mostly cheerleaders and girls who aspired to be cheerleaders. My jaw practically unhinged. Mark Miller? I hadn't said two words to him since a particularly embarrassing incident involving a spilled juice box in the 7th grade. This was a total cold call, completely out of the blue. It made absolutely no sense. My next text was simply, "Why are you texting me?" His response was immediate and confident. "Because I think you're really cute, Evelyn. You've got this mysterious vibe, you know?" I stared at the words, a mixture of disbelief and a rising wave of irritation washing over me. Cute, mysterious vibe? This was just generic nonsense. And from a jock, of all people. It felt disingenuous, a line rehearsed and delivered 1,000 times. I had a strict, self-imposed rule about dating in high school, mostly because I found the entire social scene draining and pointless, but also because I had no desire to be involved with the typical high school boy, especially not one like Mark Miller. I typed out a polite but firm decline. "Thanks, but I don't really do the dating thing while I'm in high school." I thought that would be the end of it. Clear boundary, respectfully stated, but he didn't respect it, not even a little. His texts started coming faster, losing their initial, manufactured charm and becoming progressively more unsettling. "Oh, come on, Evelyn. Everyone does the dating thing. You're just playing hard to get, aren't you?" Then the shift. "You know you're hotter than you let on. I bet you'd be really fun." My skin crawled. The compliments turned into thinly veiled suggestions, then outright propositions. "We should hook up." "My parents are out tonight. You should totally come over." My blood began to boil. My polite refusal had been ignored, my personal boundary completely disregarded. He wasn't just being flirty, he was being gross. It felt like he was pushing, 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 trying to wear down my resolve, to get me to do something I clearly didn't want to do. Thankfully, I was spared any explicit images, but the words themselves were graphic enough to make my stomach churn. The anger, simmering beneath the surface of my usual detached coolness, finally erupted. This was it. The absolute last straw. My anti-conformist, jock-hating, fiercely independent spirit took over. I wasn't going to be polite anymore. I wasn't going to just ignore him. He had crossed a line, and my temper, which I usually kept tightly leashed, finally snapped. My fingers flew across the tiny keypad of my phone, a torrent of righteous indignation pouring out in a series of scathing texts. "You are absolutely gross, Mark Miller," I began, each word a venomous dart. "Why in the world would I want anything to do with you? You think you can just text me out of the blue, say all this disgusting stuff, and I'm just supposed to fall at your feet? Please. You're just another unoriginal, pathetic jock who's going to peak in high school. Have fun with your glory days now, because it's only downhill from here." I hit send, my thumb pressing down with furious satisfaction. It was brutal, I knew it, but it felt deserved. I felt a surge of adrenaline, a rush of power from finally unleashing my true feelings on someone who so clearly deserved it. Then, silence. Complete, unnerving silence from his end. For a moment, a brief, fleeting moment, I felt a triumphant grin spread across my face. I had done it. I had roasted him, put him in his place. But as the minutes ticked by and no furious comeback or desperate plea arrived, a different, colder feeling began to creep in. A knot of unease began to form in my stomach. The silence was too complete, too perfect. Something felt off. My mind started replaying the entire exchange, the suddenness of it, his over-the-top confidence, the way he seemed to be pushing for me to come over. A sickening thought began to solidify in my mind. What if this wasn't about him actually liking me? What if this was all a setup? The popular kids at Northwood High, especially the football team, had a reputation for elaborate pranks, often at the expense of anyone they deemed outsiders or, worse, weirdos. They reveled in public humiliation. The more I thought about it, the more plausible it seemed. His friends were likely over at his house, egging him on, watching his phone as he texted me. The guess who game, the flirty lines, the push to come over, it was all designed to lure me in, to make me a spectacle. The realization hit me like a physical blow. They weren't just trying to embarrass me, they were trying to set me up for collective laughter, maybe even something worse. As a couple of commenters online would later point out, if you knew these guys, you'd agree they were definitely the type who might have had even more nefarious plans had I actually shown up. That thought sent a chill down my spine that had nothing to do with the cool evening air. The initial satisfaction of my fiery retort quickly dissolved, replaced by a cold dread. My lowest point wasn't when he was sending me gross texts. It was in the agonizing hours that followed my angry reply as the terrifying possibility dawned on me. I spent the rest of that evening and the entire next day in a state of quiet panic. My phone, usually an extension of my hand, felt like a ticking time bomb. Every vibration, every incoming message made my heart lurch. Was this it? Was this the moment my texts, my angry, unhinged rant, would be leaked to the entire school? Would I become the punchline? The weird goth girl who freaked out on Mark Miller? The thought of my carefully cultivated indifference crumbling under the weight of public humiliation was a bitter pill. I imagined whispers in the hallways, snickers during lunch, pointed fingers in the cafeteria. My stomach was in knots, and I found myself hyper-aware of every glance, every hushed conversation, convinced they were all about me. I barely slept that night, my mind racing through every humiliating scenario. But then something started to shift. The whispers did indeed begin, but they weren't about me. They were about Mark. It started subtly. My friend Chloe, usually the first to pick up on school gossip, sidled up to me in the hallway the next morning, her eyes wide with a mix of disbelief and glee. "Evelyn," she whispered, "you will not believe what I just heard about Mark Miller." My heart jumped. This was it. I braced myself for the inevitable. "What?" I asked, trying to sound casual, but my voice was tight. "He got totally roasted." She practically squealed, barely containing her excitement. Apparently, he was trying to pull some stupid prank on a girl, and she just ripped him to shreds, like epic levels of ripping, and his own friends are laughing at him. My eyebrows shot up. "Wait, what girl?" Chloe shrugged. "I don't know who she is, but everyone's saying she's some weirdo, and he totally got shut down. His own crew is calling him a loser because he got rejected by the school's resident freak." A slow, dawning realization spread across my face. Chloe, bless her heart, hadn't connected the dots yet, but I had. That weirdo was me. The epic levels of ripping were my texts. Mark Miller's plan had not just backfired, it had exploded spectacularly in his face. His friends, witnessing his humiliation in real time, had not only abandoned him but had actively turned on him. The irony was sweet, intoxicating even. He thought he was going to make me the joke, but he became the joke instead. Word spread like wildfire. My friends, once they figured out it was me, were absolutely furious on my behalf about what Mark had tried to do. Their anger fueled their desire for justice, or at least public shaming. They didn't just passively hear the rumors, they actively fanned the flames. They spread the story, not just of his rejection, but of his intention to humiliate me to anyone who would listen. They recounted, with dramatic flair, how he had been trying to pull a fast one on me, and how the Goth girl had, against all odds, shut him down so hard his own friends turned on him. The climax arrived quickly. The initial whispers turned into open ridicule. The school hallways, usually a cacophony of general chatter, now hummed with a specific kind of amusement directed squarely at Mark Miller. You could see it in the way other football players would give him a wide berth, or how some of the popular girls who used to flock around him now averted their eyes, whispering behind their hands. His signature swagger, the confident stride that seemed to declare him king of Northwood High, withered. He started walking with his head down, shoulders slumped. He looked, for the first time, genuinely vulnerable. The king had been dethroned, not by a rival jock, but by the school weirdo. The sheer poetic justice of it was almost too perfect. Every time I saw him, skulking in the halls or sitting alone at lunch, a quiet satisfaction settled over me. I hadn't sought revenge, it had been served up by the universe itself with a side of schadenfreude. My friends and I would exchange knowing glances, a silent acknowledgement of the victory. They were so proud of me, not just for my quick wit, but for standing my ground. The resolution was clear. Mark Miller's reputation never fully recovered after that. He finished high school, of course, but he was no longer the undisputed king. He was just Mark, the guy who got rejected by the weird goth girl and then publicly shamed by his own friends. My own status, surprisingly, didn't change in terms of popularity. I wasn't suddenly invited to cheerleading parties or anything ridiculous like that, but there was a shift in perception. People still thought I was weird, but now there was an unspoken understanding, a subtle respect. Don't mess with Evelyn Blackwood. She bites back, and she bites hard. It was a strange, unexpected chapter in my sophomore year. It solidified my identity, not just as the goth girl, but as someone who wouldn't be pushed around, someone who valued her self-respect above fleeting social acceptance. It was a bizarre kind of vindication, a testament to the power of standing up for yourself, even when you think the odds are stacked against you. I didn't set out to enact revenge, but seeing his plan backfire so spectacularly, witnessing the social ramifications of his own actions, was deeply, profoundly satisfying. And for the twist, people have asked if Mark Miller actually did peak in high school. I don't know much about what's going on in his life now. His social media profiles are private, which honestly says something in itself. But I can tell you this, he's 32 now, and the last time I inadvertently saw a picture of him from a mutual friend's post, he had a massive receding hairline and looked like he'd really, truly let himself go. It was a small detail, but it provided a final, satisfying confirmation of my teenage prophecy. His reputation might have taken a hit in high school, but it seems I was right about the rest of it too. Some things, it turns out, just never change.